So today we have Mr. Joshua with us. He is the CEO of East West Alliance, and he's having like 20 plus years experience in M&A, majorly in the healthcare, IT, and consulting space. And he's known for driving transformative change in the complex organization. So he has also held high-profile transactions as managing director at leading investment banks and worked with several billion-dollar corporation M&A divisions. So thanks for joining along with us, Joshua Graham. It's an honor to have you here. So welcome to the Tracxn's podcast, where majorly we are doing it like as part of the Tracxn's 12th year anniversary. We are doing an interview series with the investment banking clients whom we are having in the US region. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Looking forward to kind of chatting with you a little bit and, sharing a little bit about my background and, sort of what I see out there in the market.
Yeah, great. So to start off, the first question is the same, like, could you walk us through your background, how you came to this like investment banking domain and some key milestones you are having in your professional journey so far?
Yeah, so my career actually originally wanted to be anesthesiologist. So when I was in college, got my degree in chemistry, was planning the med school track. That's what I wanted to do. That's where I was going to go. Quickly realized I didn't want to be in school till I was in my 30s and kind of, worked full time through college. I was in the IT and audiovisual space, working as sort of like an operational consultant contractor, going to different properties, learning like operations, how to manage large events, things like that. As I graduated college, kind of realized that, maybe the route as a physician wasn't really my calling. Luckily, I had a colleague of mine that said, hey, we're doing a lot of M&A. We're growing as an organization. Our space really needs someone to kind of help us with the operational integration pieces, right? So someone to kind of take everything on the front end and like, let's put it into effect on the back end. So came into the organization, started leading integrations, doing it from small deals, a few 100,000, one office, two offices. That kind of just led into larger scale integrations where, some of the larger ones we were working on were $600-700 million deals with multi-states, large physician groups, data centers, the whole kit and caboodle, where we were taking their company and figuring out ways to integrate them into the most synergistic way. As that kind of progressed, I always joke and say I was sort of voluntold. So my career kind of was a little bit more of like, hey, you're doing great on this. Go ahead and handle this part. Hey, you're doing great on that. Why can't you handle this?
Yeah.
And so that moved more and more into the front end where I was helping to build out like our capital expenditure costs, our operational costs, our integration costs. I started working with some of our higher ups on like some of our strategies. I started running and operating all of our what we called our move ad change group. So whenever we had a physician that was like moving offices, they were growing or adding to their facilities, or if they were doing like remodels, things like that, all of that eventually came to me. So we would basically run all of that with our different teams and find ways to grow that. So it was kind of a culmination of all these different skill sets that happened with my career. That kind of just kept pushing me more and more into the front end of M&A. I moved into the hospital system side where I was working, managing and doing M&A for a hospital system, large-scale hospital system that was growing. That then transitioned to a lot of different specialties within the healthcare space. So I've worked with like ophthalmology, optometry, hospice, home health. I've worked with gastroenterologists. I've done consulting work with some dental groups. Women's and children's services. So it just kind of just became this, you're doing good at it and you're, keep going with it. And it just kind of aligned. And it was a great way for me to kind of realize to still make an impact within the healthcare system, but not going the traditional physician route. So it's been a really interesting journey. As you mentioned, I was working with Merger Partners as a managing director there, brought in to kind of lead our healthcare initiative. So worked, deals there within the healthcare space. Probably my most notable milestone there is we did a large scale multi-state vein pain and surgery center deal that we took out to market and ultimately sold for over $100 million for two physicians. And that one had some unique complexities to it. But yeah, that was probably my most notable goal there. as I transitioned to East West Alliance, where I'm at now, and the CEO, it was a unique where I was talking with a lot of colleagues. We kind of had this back and forth where we were all sort of doing bits and pieces of the M&A space. And we kind of realized that there was a niche in the market where you're not quite like a large scale Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, where you're going to these bigger groups, but you're not quite, mom and pop where you're trying to figure out how to do it yourself. So there was a way for us to really blend this Olive Cart uniqueness within our organization where we kind of brought all our skill sets together and have been servicing groups, throughout the US. And now we're doing things worldwide. We'd have offices in the UK, in the Middle East, Armenia, here in the US. And we're kind of expanding, looking for different areas and regions. And because of our backgrounds, we have the ability to service multiple verticals. So we do energy, we do healthcare, we do business valuations, business operations. So it's been a very unique journey in my career of kind of how I went from operations, wanting to be a physician, to kind of just slowly moving into leading a large scale group, that's worldwide now, where we have, clients that are literally all over the world. So it's been interesting.
That's great. Like rather than becoming a physician, you are creating more impact right now.
Yeah.
So great. So as part of East West Alliance, I would like to understand, like, is there any notable deals which you have done recently, some impactful deals, so that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah. So, kind of something that's been, more of like a recent deal, I guess, that's in that space, I guess you could kind of say. Right now we have a couple of things that we're working on that I would say are probably the more of a recent deal that we're kind of highlighted and excited about that really stands out to me. So we have a potential deal that we're working that's in the healthcare space. It's in the cardiovascular and vascular sector that we're really excited about. It's definitely something that's new. There has been a little bit of a consolidation in this space over the past couple of years, but there's a uniqueness to it now that we're starting to see where cardiology, heart disease, some of these things are just as prevalent as we're seeing with like diabetes and some of these other areas. So for us, this is kind of a unique way for us to blend this potential opportunity with different physicians that are treating sort of in the same vertical, vascular and heart disease, cardiovascular, to really come together and start providing like a lot better services for the patient. And that's one of the big things we always talk about with our team. We always talk about with our physicians. And when we're doing deals or working with them is, good medicine is good business, right? So if we can find ways to help bring you the ability to treat the patient better, and whatever that may be, however that is, whether that's finding you the right investors, the right backers, whatever that looks like, if that's ultimately allowing you to service the patient more, then that's good business, right? That's what's going to help make a real change in the environment. That's really going to make a big change in your communities and sort of those things. And so for us, it's these sort of deals that we work in the healthcare space that get us excited, because it's really the opportunity to make impacts for patients and really see that, like, we don't want to see patients coming back unless it's for something else, right? If we see you once, we want to allow our physicians that we work with and help take out to market and deals and things like that. We want to find them the best partner to allow those physicians to treat the patient.
Great. That's a great impactful work which you are doing in the market. So as a continuation of that, I would like to understand, like, what as a CEO, what is your top focus coming in the coming years, and what is driving those priorities?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing as the CEO, working with my team is kind of my number one focus, right? So I'm always doing check-ins with them. I'm always talking with them. I'm always trying to find ways to say, it's not just me, it's what do you guys see in the market, right? What are you guys understanding that are out there? What are you guys seeing in different sectors of healthcare, of energy, of, marketing, of construction? What are these areas that we need to be applying our focus to and making adjustments? So, as we have those conversations, for me as a CEO, as I take everything in, digest it, kick it around and do my own notes and chew on it, I really try to focus and kind of set my expectations for how do we best serve our client, right? So that's always going to be my number one thing of, do we need to be making adjustments to service those that we're working with, right? Whether it's going in to say, hey, what does our company look like? We want to sell 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Can you help prep us for that, right? So I always try to find ways that we can build out our skill set, build out our knowledge, platforms, things like that. Very, very similar to you guys. So how do
Yeah.
we incorporate these sorts of businesses into what we do that allow us to service in the most effective way, right? And I always think it's I think that what they call it is the red queen theory, right? So
Mhm.
everyone's always changing, right? So
Yes.
if you're evolving, everyone else is evolving too. So you're all still on the same page, right? The real difference is when you start to understand, how do I change twice as fast? How do I make that next, pivot? How do I get just a little bit more ahead? And that's how ultimately you're going to find that success. So when I think about those sorts of things, whether that's working with like AI, whether that's working with platforms like yours with Tracxn, it's all these little tools that we look for to say, how do we get just a little bit better so that way we can be just a little bit more ahead, because we're all trying to figure it out. Everyone in this organization, everyone that's in this sector, we're all trying to find the next big angle on how to get, moving forward. So it's using those sorts of tools that we see that really kind of help put us that next step to allow for us to really make a difference. And so as I look forward, for us, that's really what it is. It's like, how do we become innovative? How do we find other platforms and companies and systems that we can partner with that aren't necessarily doing what we're doing, but they're different sectors, right? So one of the groups that we work with, they're a large scale KPI metric organization. So their whole job is KPIs, metrics, like let's get the visual data out there for you. But with a lot of their clients and people they work with, sometimes they're like, hey, we're kind of doing all of this because we ultimately want to go to market, or we're trying to prep ourselves, in the future for that sort of thing. So it's partnering with people like that could say, hey, we have a group that we work with, East West Alliance. We trust them. We know their CEO. We know what they're about. So it's a way for us to kind of go in there and say, hey, how can we help? Let's have a conversation. We're not here to throw an invoice at you or start charging you right away. Like, we want to understand if this is something we can help with. So it's building those relationships, those referral partners, those channel partners. It's finding the right tools for us right now that I'm really focused on that are going to allow for us to sustain down the road as we continue to grow.
Great, great. So, like, since you mentioned about the AI also, now everyone is talking about AI. Like, when I'm meeting my clients also, every other meeting they're asking about what kind of AI companies are there in the market. So, like, I want to understand like how you incorporate AI in your daily workflow. Like, how do you use tools like Tracxn? Like, how the tools play a role in your supporting and enhancing your work.
Yeah, so for us, I think the biggest thing that I've kind of talked with my team is AI is here to help you. It's not here to replace you. So there's a very strong human element of what we do in our organization and kind of in our sector of investment banking and M&A, that it's a lot of shaking hands, right? So I always let my team know that AI is here to kind of help improve all of that. It's not here to replace any sort of work that you do, right? Because I'm still going to want that ability to go talk to my team. I want to go say, hey, you worked on this and built this. Why did you do it this way? What are your expectations of this? So a lot of what we use AI for within our organization is, screening targets, right? Look, let's build out a white paper around this particular sector. Let's build out a potential understanding of what this particular business is. Let's review and work on these datas. Let's take what we've learned through conversations and interviews and talking with our clients, and let's take that information in and use AI to help build out a sim that we feel comfortable with, right? So we always go through revisions. We use AI as sort of that initial lift. It kind of helps us get everything sort of organized and put it in ways that we think. But I utilize our team to say, okay, here's what we initially got. How do we like that? Is that something that we're like, okay, that looks good? Or it's like, once we kind of lay it out, it may not be the way we like it. So we put our touch on it. We find ways to kind of like, all right, if we do this, maybe we move around. We want to adjust the slides, all these sorts of context to it. And we use it for things like, if we do these sorts of timelines for like integrations, we help it to review like financial pieces. So it's a way for us to kind of get that initial heavy lift off the floor, but it doesn't really eliminate all the work that we do. So it's a great way for us to take a lot of that out of it, but it still helps us just prep for the work that we're already going to do anyways, and sort of the shaking hands, the continued relationship building in it, and very similar. So with like Tracxn, Tracxn for us has been a really great platform because it allows for us to go to one centralized place and pull the information that we need, right? So what do we need to know about this sector? What do we need to know about who's investing in it? What do we need to know about who can go out there and help us find, these potential investors for this sector? Are there people that are already in there? How much money are they putting out? So it's a really great research tool for us to build out, our buyer list that we're able to pull together for something like this goes like that, right? It's so easy for us to be like,
And
hey, we have this target. Hey, here's what it's going to do. And we're like, all right, who's going to be interested in this, right? So we have our relationship, we have our Rolodex, we do all those sorts of things, and we start working through it. But it's like, well, let's use our platform, right? And we'd like to do what we call working sessions with it, or roundtables, where we'll sit down with our team, we'll go into the system, and we're like, okay, let's start filtering out, like, are we in the US? How large? How small of a check? What do they look like? How far back was this? And so we're able to pull our buyer list really, really quickly. We're able to get snapshots. We're able to pull contact information that's out there. There's a tool that's in here that's like an analyst part that we can go and utilize, where we can send out queries and things into the system. The system does all the work, and then it like shoots it out to us. So we're like, okay, cool. Like, all right, that saved me like a day and a half of work, right? So it's this uniqueness of using AI to kind of do the heavy lifting. We take platforms like Tracxn and we put all that information into it. We filter it down even more. That gets us what we need. And then we kind of sift through it as sort of the fine-tooth comb and build it out the way that we want it to look. So it's been a really unique way to blend technology together that we've really, really found to be very, very useful. So, as I look at the horizon, that's what I see with like AI and Tracxn and these sorts of strong platforms that are out there is you've got to learn to work them into your system and into your workflow, into your culture, and don't try to use them to replace what you have, right? Because what you had has been successful, and that's good. And you've got to continue to realize like what we're doing is important and what we've built is important. These are just here to help us. It's no different than a hammer, right? It's a tool that you got to learn how to use properly. You don't use a hammer to screw in or like things like that. I'm sure you can make it work. You can really fidget it and fiddle it around, but it's use the tool in the way that it's intended to help build out what you already have in your toolbox.
That's great sharing, Joshua. I understood the major part of it is that AI is there, but on top of that, we have to build our own systems, and systems like Tracxn, tools like Tracxn can be an added advantage, especially for your the tagline of East West, like empowering growth across borders and industries. So that is something which is highly possible with the tech solutions around us. That's great. So I'm coming to my last question here. So I would like to understand, like, you have like 20 plus years experience in the investment banking industry. So a piece of advice which you would like to give to someone who is just beginning the career in the investment banking industry.
So the one thing I would give as the top piece of advice, right, is trying to think of how to say it. So don't be a banker, right? If you're going into the investment banking world, everyone's going to know numbers, right? Everyone's going to be a banker. Everyone's going to have the technical skills. Everyone's gone to the university and they've learned this, they've learned that. They know Excel. There's all these different aspects, right? Those are a given. That's the threshold, right? That if you've accomplished those to get into the system, right? And so for me, what I like to tell people is be an operator, right? You need to understand how a business works, right? How the people are working, how their processes are working. How does the capital for this organization work? Where does their revenue come into, right? That sort of ability to look at deals through that sort of lens is really what's going to separate you in your career. And of course, you build your skill set out, your Excel, your all these different areas using things like Tracxn and AI. And these are skills that everyone has to have. But those soft skills of learning how to be an operator and really learn the business that you're working with, that's really what's going to make the most of an impact into your career, because it allows for you to talk about the organization, right? What makes this organization special? Why are they going to market? Why do they do what they do? Why are these systems the way that they are? And a really good mentor of mine, his name's Rob Doom. He works in the IT space, and he's a CIO, and he does consulting work and things like that. He was one of the first people that taught me this. He was like, we go into these businesses, we're working. He's like, go to the floor, right? Go to the people that are at the front desk, go to the doctors, go and talk with these people that are working the day-to-day systems and learn about the business. Cause that's how you're going to find out like where the pitfalls are, where some things that not totally working out, right? There's all these little pieces that you have to understand that make that business unique, right? Everyone has their uniqueness to it, right? You can look at a company and be like, oh, it's a healthcare company. It's just like this healthcare company. And in some aspects they are, for sure. They definitely are. But you have to understand that there's differences just as much as there are similarities. And so when you become an operator and you have that ability to look at your businesses, understand them, what makes them unique, when you go out to the market with them and you're representing them and you're talking about them, you can bring that same energy, that same love, that same passion that the owners do for the company that they built, for those doctors that are treating those patients, for all these sorts of things. You can now feel that passion come from you because you care. You learned about that business. You understand why it works the way that it works. So that's my advice, is learn to be an operator, grow your skill set, but learn your businesses, right? Be able to look at things from a different point of view and not just the dollars and cents or just the numbers of things. And as you start to learn that, it'll really, really make a big impact in whatever you do, especially in the investment banking world. But if you transition into private equity, if you transition into venture capital, maybe you work with someone that opens a family office, right? I'm sure, at Tracxn, you guys see all these different platforms that you talk with and work with. The thing that will really separate you is, yeah, you can look at it and maybe move to the private equity side and you're like, oh, we want to buy this company because its profit's great. But you have that extra lens of looking at it like an operator, and you go and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, the culture here is terrible, right? Like this company is like, it's really, really bad. Everyone hates each other, like whatever the business is, right? So it's the ability to look past that and see it as an operator, like if I was running this business. So I think for me, that would be the biggest thing, is learn to think like an operator and not just a banker.
That's great, Joshua. Like I could clearly see the passion you are having, like when you're talking about what you're doing. Like I could see that passion and the energy you're passing to your colleagues also. Thanks a lot for joining with us today. And with this limited time, like you shared a lot of things with us. And thanks again for joining and sharing your insights. Hoping to work together and making sure we are empowering growth across multiple borders and multiple industries. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. Anytime you guys want me back, I'm happy to join and talk, and maybe we'll do a panel in the future.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.